Good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. President Donald Trump has laid out his financial plan for America. The $1.1 trillion spending plan slashes funding to several government departments while also putting down a down payment on plans for a border wall and increased military spending. It's all part of his plan to do more with less. But a lot of lawmakers up on Capitol Hill aren't having it. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts is at the White House tonight with a look at some of the winners and losers in the president's budget. Good evening, John.
Brett, good evening to you. There are two words that the president's budget director used to describe the budget that released today. Mick Mulvaney saying this is all about hard power. In putting together the discretionary budget, OMB Director Mick Mulvaney said he listened to all the promises the president made during the campaign, then created a budget policy for each and every one.
We had America First, an America First candidate. You now have an America First president, and it shouldn't surprise anybody that we have an America First budget.
The first priority is to increase defense spending, at least a 10% bump, some $54 billion. Homeland Security gets an additional $3 billion, while Veterans Affairs will add $4.4 billion to its budget. $1.5 billion will be tapped to begin construction of the border wall, with $2.6 billion more coming next year. To offset the increases, the State Department faces a 28% cut. Most of the $10 billion being slashed will come from the foreign aid budget, which Secretary of State Rex Tillerson says is just fine with him.
I think clearly the level of spending that the State Department has been undertaking in the past, and particularly in this past year, is simply not sustainable. I'm confident that with the input of the men and women of the State Department, we are going to construct a way forward that allows us to be much more effective, much more efficient, and be able to do a lot with fewer dollars.
The Environmental Protection Agency will be cut 31% and lose more than 3,000 jobs. HHS will be scaled back nearly 18%, while Housing and Urban Development will lose $6 billion, including community block grants that help fund the Meals on Wheels program.
We can't do that anymore. We can't spend money on programs just because they sound good and great. Meals on Wheels sounds great. Again, that's a state decision to fund that particular portion of it, to take the federal money and give it to the states and say, look, we want to give you money for programs that don't work. I can't defend that anymore.
While conservatives will applaud the increase in defense spending, cuts to foreign aid, and elimination of programs like the National Endowment for the Arts and Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the new budget only holds the line on the deficit and does nothing to reduce it. In Congress, the Republican leadership reacted cautiously to this initial offer.
Do I think we can cut spending and get waste out of government? Absolutely. Where and how and what numbers, that's something we'll be figuring out as time goes on. This is just the very beginning of that process.
Democrats wasted no time calling it downright mean.
This budget is not a statement of values of anyone. That President Trump has shown that he does not value the future of our children and working families.
The OMB director said that this budget should come as a surprise to no one who listened to anything that the president had to say on the campaign trail. What might surprise the president, though, is how difficult it proves to be to get the budget you want through the Congress you need. Brett?
John, there's a controversy today over the lack of presidential portraits at VA facilities across the country. What's going on with that?
The other day, Brett, it was brought to the attention of Florida Congressman Brian Mast, who himself is a disabled veteran, that there weren't any portraits of the president and the VA Secretary David Shulkin at the VA facility in West Palm Beach, and for that matter, other facilities across the country. So Mast, together with a group of veterans, went to the VA the other day with their own portraits of President Trump and Shulkin and hung them up on the wall. But after they left, VA staff took those portraits down, which prompted the White House today to send a directive to the VA, which it then passed along to all of the VA hospitals across the country to allow dignified and appropriate unauthorized portraits to hang in VA facilities until the official ones have been delivered. And we're told tonight, Brett, that the portraits that Mast and the veterans provided are back up at the VA facility there in West Palm Beach, and that the official ones will soon be on the way. Brett?
All right, John Roberts live on the North Lawn.